You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Lohr, and as chair, I now call to order the meeting of the Bond Finance Committee members of the New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development for this Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. This meeting is being webcasted. The committee members have received all the relevant written materials in advance of today's meeting and of course are free to ask questions. The public was given an opportunity to comment on the agenda item by submitting their written comments by 4:30 p.m. yesterday. I'll note for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda item, and we do not have any members of the public in attendance to provide any comments. I will ask the committee members whether anyone has a potential conflict of interest with today's agenda item. Hearing none, we'll note that for the record. I will now ask Matthew Bray to present the item on today's agenda, which relates to the issuance of state personal income tax revenue bonds and/or state tax revenue bonds. Matt?
Thank you, Chairman Law. Good morning. The committee is being asked to approve the forms of the supplemental resolution, preliminary official statement, notices of sale, supplemental schedule to financing agreement, and related documents in connection with the proposed sale and delivery of the corporation's state personal income tax revenue bonds general purpose, Series 2023A, tax exempt, and state personal income tax revenue bonds general purpose, Series 2023B, tax exempt, and the delegation of powers to determine the terms and conditions of the proposed sale of the bonds to certain officers and employees of the corporation, and to award the bonds to one or more successful bidders if the bonds are sold by public competitive sale. The bonds will be issued by the corporation pursuant to the Revenue Bond Financing Program and will be secured by a pledge of financing agreement payments that are payable from amounts legally required to be deposited into the Revenue Bond Tax Fund by New York State. Distributions of such funds are subject to annual appropriations by the state legislature. And the corporation currently plans to issue the bonds under the New York State Urban Development Corporation State Personal Income Tax Revenue Bonds General Purpose General Bond Resolution adopted on November 16, 2009, and Supplemental Resolution 2023-1 authorizing state personal income tax revenue bonds general purpose. To provide maximum flexibility, it is proposed the committee also approve Supplemental Resolution 2023-2 authorizing state sales tax revenue bonds. In the event the corporation issues any sales tax bonds, such bonds will be issued pursuant to the Sales Tax Revenue Bond Financing Program and will be secured by a pledge of financing agreement payments from amounts legally required to be deposited into the Sales Tax Revenue Bond Tax Fund. The committee previously approved master continuing disclosure agreements that will apply to the bonds, the appointment of co-bond counsel, and the submission of an application to the Public Authorities Control Board for the authorization to fund the projects or programs for which the bonds will be issued. On November 15, 2023, the PACB approved such application and authorized state personal income tax revenue bonds and/or state sales tax revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $1.2 billion. Proceeds from the sale of the bonds will be used to finance projects relating to the Metropolitan Transportation Authority and may refund certain outstanding state-supported debt previously issued by the corporation and other authorized issuers of state-supported debt. The bonds will be sold on a competitive and/or negotiated basis as fixed-rate tax-exempt bonds, with the Series 2023A bonds also expected to qualify for a climate bond certified designation. Bonds are expected to be offered pursuant to one or more preliminary official statements and sold pursuant to one or more notices of sale. In accordance with the resolution and exhibits, the committee is requested to adopt the supplemental resolutions, approve the form of the supplemental schedules, authorize the sale of bonds on a public, competitive, and/or negotiated basis, approve the form and content of the preliminary official statements, and various documents connected to the sale and delivery of the bonds. Authorize certain officers and employees of the corporation to take all actions deemed necessary to accomplish the final sale and delivery of the bonds and refund certain outstanding state-supported debt previously issued by the corporation and other authorized issuers of state-supported debt, including the payment of any amounts necessary to terminate or reinstate interest rate exchange agreements related to the bonds being refunded. By approving the resolution, the committee will establish a maximum aggregate par amount of bonds that may be issued, establish a maximum true interest cost for each series of bonds, and delegate to certain officers and employees the power to determine the terms of the bonds within the parameters set forth therein, including, but not limited to, the final aggregate principal amount of the bonds, the principal amount of each series of the bonds, the principal amount of the bonds maturing in each year, the final maturity dates for such bonds, and the interest rates of the bonds, and to make such changes to the related documents deemed necessary and appropriate. The bonds are expected to price in mid-December and close soon thereafter. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Hey, Matt, one question. Are these, is this approval going to just add on to the, the issuance of the bonds that we approved last month, or will this be a separate issuance?
The bonds that were approved last month.
I think last time we met was for the.
It was the first. It was to submit everything to the PACB. Yeah. So this is the same issuance.
Yeah, the Public Authorities Control Board up in Albany has to approve our plans to borrow on behalf of the state. So unfortunately, you have to meet twice. You have to meet once before the PACB meets to kind of ask them permission, right? Get their approval, and then once that's done, we meet again to where you authorize us to actually go now do it with the PACB approval in place. So it's perfectly bureaucratic, but it's the
same issuance.
Same issuance.
And because we approved bond counsel at the last meeting, we don't have to approve them again on this resolution.
Correct. Right.
Got it.
Yeah. Sorry for the endless bureaucracy.
It's good. I understand.
Yeah.
Any other members of the committee have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, hearing none. We have no comments from the public on this either. So I will move it. Hope seconds it. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. The motion carries. Is there any other business that anybody wants to raise at this time? Hearing none, we will adjourn the meeting. I will move it. Benson seconds it. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much for participation in today's meeting.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will not convene this group again till the next year.
This year.
Promise.
So we get 4 weeks off.
Yes, probably, yeah, the way things are going.
No,